I think it basically, under the Constitution, fundamentally, this is a decision that a woman should make in conjunction with a physician. That's a position that is shared on both sides of the aisle. It's not unique to Republicans or Democrats or Independents. It's a constitutional position.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
There's been a lot of airstrikes going on in Syria, and I was wondering where your position on. Do you support the airstrikes taking place in Syria? Do you believe troops should be brought in? I'm asking this because Obama has personally asked you to be Secretary of Defense, and you also have a military background. Where do you stand?
So just, if I could, if you would introduce yourself, Andrew.
Oh, I'm
to the
Andrew.
Senate. You would introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
First, for the record, I've never been asked to be Secretary of Defense. That's the truth. There's a lot of rumors, Walsh, but I've never been asked. And I've got a great job, so I'm happy. I want to keep it. That's why we're asking for you and the parents to support. Airstrikes to Syria, yes. We have a threat there. ISIL or ISIS, I'll use ISIS because it rolls off the tongue a little easier. The Iraqi state in Iraq, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. These are committed terrorists, very sophisticated, very professional. Their immediate goal is to seize territory in that area, but their long-term goals could be to launch attacks against the United States or our allies in Europe or around the world. We have to take them out. And we're using air power right now to break up their command and control, to break up their logistics, to start degrading them. That's our air power. What we need to do is also to harness local ground forces. So in Iraq, we are essentially reevaluating, helping the Iraqi security services on the ground be able to fight ISIS. In Syria, we've just authorized the training outside of Syria of 5,000 Syrian fighters a year to go back in. So ultimately you need this air and ground combination. But at this point, we're using our technological advantage, our intelligence, to go ahead and try to defeat ISIS now, to prevent any type of attack against the United States or our allies. Good question. Anybody else? By the way, I do have to go, but I don't think, Jim, do you want to chime in on any of these issues?
I'm going to stay a little bit afterwards, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think Rhode Island should use more renewable energy or similar projects to the wind farm?
I think Rhode Island has to deal with the energy issue because we spend, not just Rhode Island, but New England, much more than the rest of the country. And Block Island, because of many reasons, spends even more than the rest of Rhode Island. So one of the things we have to do is we have to attack the issue of demand by weatherization of homes. If we use less energy, we need less energy. So weatherization programs, more efficient and more effective distribution systems. Jim and I are working with the Department of Agriculture. We hope we can get a $3.5 million grant for Block Island so that you can improve your local distribution of energy system so you don't lose energy just by moving it down the wire. So demand reduction is one. Two is to look for alternate energy other than just petroleum, hydrocarbons. Because there's another issue here, that's climate change. And we have to be sensitive now and in the future about climate change. So you put together demand reduction, better distribution systems more efficiently, and using alternate energy, and I think that's the formula going forward that's going to make us more secure and more productive. Good question again. Anybody else? These are great questions. Yes?
I'm another.
That's all right.
You've probably seen this before.
I saw it.
Yeah. And I read this over last night, and it sounded a lot like you want to change the state constitution.
No, let me explain. First of all, you and I have to get other hobbies because I read it last night too. So get a hobby. Okay, now that's just advice. Here's the situation, and let me explain it to you. We have a federal constitution that governs our activities as United States Congressman and United States Senator. There is a state constitution, which is the fundamental law of the state of Rhode Island. It is ultimately approved by voters. In our state constitution, which Congressman Langevin was a member of the Constitutional Convention, those individuals and the Constitution requires every 10 years we have to put a proposal before the people of Rhode Island to see if they want to convene another constitutional convention. So this is our constitutional authority every 10 years saying to the people of Rhode Island, do you want a constitutional convention? And it's completely separate than the federal constitution. The only other point I'll make, though, and this is because of the way our government's put together, the United States Constitution preempts local issue. That is the supreme law of the land. So if there's a conflict between a state law or a state constitution and the federal constitution will preempt. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
The U.S. Congress seems to be in a state of paralysis. What can people like us do to change that?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is vote, not just here but across the country. Because what surprises me when you look at the voting statistics in the United States, it's in some case elections 40% of eligible voters, 50. There are other countries across the globe where 80, 90% of people vote, and the more people you have vote, I think the more effective government is, because people are sensitive, politicians, political leaders are more sensitive to a larger range of opinions. So first, you're a citizen, you're going to vote, okay? Second, there are some things that I think we can do in terms of the structure of our government to help improve things. There are states that have, and we're not one of them, that have, and I can speak as a former member of the House, I'll let the Congressman comment too. There are states that have independent commissions that redistrict congressional seats. And what they've found, some academics, is that these districts more accurately reflect sort of the voter sentiment. What happens in some cases is districts are arranged so that they favor either Republican or they favor Democrat, etc. And I think structurally that causes a problem, particularly in the House. But it's not just in the House. There's another factor here too. It applies to the Senate and the House. And that's, you know, there are now, after a Supreme Court decision called Citizens United, the ability for large corporations to spend anonymous millions of dollars on campaigns that affect House seats, Senate seats, presidential elections, everything. And I think the spirit going back to the 1970s in terms of campaign finance reform is that there should be sensible limits, there should be full disclosure, should be clear, you know, where money's coming from, etc. And we have to do much better with that. But that's going to require either a Supreme Court decision overturning Citizens United or a constitutional amendment or statutorily, and we tried to do this 2 or 3 years ago, a much more extensive disclosure of these contributions so people know that's what we're doing. Yes, well, yeah, you're good.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So if the asking the Secretary of Defense for the honor is a rumor, is it also a rumor that you were asked to be director of the CIA as well?
I was never asked to be director of the CIA. I was never asked to be Secretary of Defense. I was flattered by all these rumors. It's very flattering, but it's, no. He was just picking up on a lot of Washington. So he's a very good teacher. If he's paying attention to that. Thank you very much. But here's one of the things that I find the opportunity and privilege to represent Rhode Island to be compelling. And I just, you know, it'd be nice to be talked about in the press, etc. And by the way, we've got a very good Secretary of Defense right now, Chuck Hagel, a dear friend of mine, and a very combat veteran of Vietnam, wounded twice in Vietnam. So we're very fortunate. But you know, there are rumors and then there are realities. So I'm here. Reality. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mara Wilson. And do you plan to raise minimum wage in Rhode Island?
Let me just tell you, again, this is another illustration of the federal nature of our government. The state of Rhode Island has already raised the minimum wage. And in fact, they have another minimum wage increase scheduled for next year. So that would mean that in Rhode Island, just Rhode Island alone, the wage goes up. However, at the federal level, I was proposing supporting, we raise the minimum wage to $10.10.
I like that.
And yes, thank you. And by the way, if we do that, this goes back to the point I made before, because the federal constitution and law in many, many cases preempt states, then every state would have to raise their minimum wage to $10.10 to be compliant. That helps Rhode Island, because what that does, it doesn't give incentives for companies to move jobs to states that have very, very low minimum wages, which can't support families. And it gives us a more even playing field. So for many reasons, I think we should raise it. The other reason it's compelling is, you know, if you are making the current federal minimum wage and you're working 40 hours a week, you are in poverty. And we should have a situation where if you're working hard 40 hours a week or more, you should at least be above the minimum poverty level in the United States. So that's one of the other reasons. Anybody else? Great question. Yes, ma'am.
What is your opinion on the naturalization of undocumented citizens?
The nationalization of undocumented citizens. There is no specific proposal to nationalize undocumented citizens. What we have done in the United States Senate, and it's a bipartisan effort. In fact, the leader on the other side is Senator John McCain of Arizona, who was the Republican presidential candidate in 2008. We passed bipartisan immigration reform legislation. The first component was to strengthen border security so that people could not get into the United States easily. That's part of it. One of the other parts of it is to provide what is known as a pathway to citizenship. So if you are here, you can come forward, you have to pay all of your outstanding taxes, you have to actually learn English before you can qualify to take the examination and qualify as a citizen. And you have to get at the back of the line, meaning people are here legally on visas or on permits